Here are 5 life-changing tips that you need to be the most successful in 2024. Let's talk about it. Team, welcome back to the channel. First and foremost, sincere thank you for all the love, appreciation, and feedback y'all gave me on my first video. If you haven't seen it, click the card up there where I talk about ChatGPT and if it's destroying you or if it's actually helpful. And before we get any further into this video, if I look and or sound terrible this video, just know that I have a child in daycare and it is flu season. If you know, you know. But today we're gonna talk about 5 actionable tips that I think you need to be the most successful version of yourself in 2024. The first tip that I wanna talk to you about is what I'm calling training hell. Imagine you're 15 hours deep into grinding online courses and you think you're making a ton of progress, but you're actually looking a lot like this. Truth of the matter is, for every course you're completing, badge you're earning, you are gaining skills, but absolutely nothing will compare to rolling up your sleeves and getting your hands dirty.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
I was a victim of training hell. You see, coming out of college, we're simply and largely just taught how to study and how to regurgitate information to produce results for an exam. And because I didn't know any better, this directly led into my early career, where I still thought that was the way you learned. It was all I knew. And truthfully, that's when I realized that this training hell was just another source of analysis paralysis and just gave me mental fog rather than actually promoting me to take action and write some code. So here are 3 little tips on how to get out of the hamster wheel so that you can become a little more productive. Every day as you are drinking your morning coffee, ask yourself this question. Is what I'm planning to do today more similar to the hamster running in the ever-spinning wheel, or are you actually trailblazing? I think that first step is just recognizing which, are you in the hamster wheel or no? Because if you are in the hamster wheel and you recognize it, that's what gives you the ability to take intentional action to jump on out. The second take here is to find a project. Whether you want to copy and paste an existing product and remake it, or get involved in the open source community, get your hands dirty, break stuff. You gotta get more comfortable and recognize what the messiness of real world coding looks like, because you won't get those things in fabricated lab environments for those online courses. I promise you, real code is never as tidy as what you're gonna get in those online courses. And the third one here is just to simply track your progress, whether in apps like Notion or Day One or just on a physical book, and ideally daily, but at least at the start, the middle, and the end of your project, as these little nuggets of gold that you're gonna build up over time is what's going to give you the paper trail of what you need to recognize the patterns that are working for you and the ones that aren't working for you. Tip number 2 is a work-life balance. And I can already hear your inner voice. What a cliche topic, stupid thing to say.
You're so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
But I genuinely think that this is a super critical point, but I'm gonna hopefully offer some new perspectives and new things to think about when it comes to work-life balance. And before I give you those, I sucked at this in my early career. I often found myself working 80+ hours in a given week, and it wasn't until I had a family when I really started to put emphasis on this to try to find my own balance. And I'm not here to tell you that a work-life balance starts with a morning routine or it is just about setting boundaries, but instead I want to give you 2 specific points that I think that you should be tuning into. The first point being to find your what. Truthfully, and I think for a lot of people, the hardest part isn't setting a boundary, it is knowing where to set that boundary. And like most other people, I really did struggle with this until I figured out what was driving me to find joy and happiness while at work. You see, your what's are the things that do really inspire you and they motivate you so that your day job gives you joy and energizes you rather than sucks the soul out of you. For me, this was recognizing that I really enjoy working on innovative R&D type projects and that I really enjoy autonomy. Truthfully, I enjoy it so much that finding a career that allows me to be highly autonomous is a must-have for me at this point. And to gain those things, I did have to have some amount of time where my balance work was a little higher for a little while. But by doing this early in my career, I can now get a better balance and still get what I want out of it. Which leads me to my next point, surges. Just like life has seasons, so does your career. Recognize that it is okay to have surges in your career, and they're gonna come and go just like everything else. You're going to have some times where you do have to put your head down and grind, but then you're also gonna have the times where you're not grinding 24/7, and that's gonna give you the ability to reflect and look back and show an appreciation to yourself for all of the hard work that you just did. Think of those surges as fighting the boss on the final level, but then when you're not surging, you're just cruising through story mode. Tip number 3 is the Eisenhower matrix. If you're unfamiliar, this matrix is generally associated to the US President Dwight D. Eisenhower. And whether it be the highway system or NASA, This guy was pretty busy. And a lot of folks believe that his productivity and the efficiencies in which he worked were solely because of this matrix. This matrix consists of 4 quadrants. The urgent and important quadrant, which means you do it now. The not urgent but important quadrant, which means you schedule it for later. The urgent but not important to you quadrant, which means you delegate it to somebody else. And the not urgent, not important quadrant, which means you just flat out delete it. And whether on paper, like in your notebook, on apps like Todoist, or my personal use on Notion, giving yourself 10, 20, even 30 minutes at the start of your day to go through this matrix with all of your emails and your tasks and your to-do items is what's going to allow you to focus and prioritize what you really should be working on. And truthfully, most likely will also be the items that you want to be working on. And if you have other tips or suggestions or techniques that you'd like to share, let's build that community. Go ahead and drop a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you. Now that you've figured out what you should be working on, the next tip is going to drive it home. Tip number 4 is Deep Work by the author Cal Newport. And Cal suggests that you put your phone away, turn off your notifications, flat out close Teams or Slack, or at least put a heads down message, and get into your flow state. Cal Newport says, deep work is not about the sheer number of hours invested, but the depth of cognitive engagement during those hours. It's the difference between mere busyness and meaningful productivity. And maybe that sounds like BS, but I'm not gonna lie to you. I found this to be an absolute game changer. Because rather than going through days and weeks where I feel like I haven't made much progress, I can generally get more work done in 4 to 5 hours of uninterrupted work than I can in 2 to 3 days of work that's full of interruption. This isn't to say that every single day needs to be a high focus day. And truthfully, while you're still learning and mastering this skill, it's actually a really hard thing to stay focused and engaged for that long. So one easy thing that you could do to start right now is check out channels like Sean's Study and leverage one of his Pomodoro techniques. And I'm not saying that Sean invented Pomodoro, that's been around for a long time, but Sean's Study has a channel where he has some pretty zen music and it just makes it really easy to focus to. Tip number 5, and the last tip of this video, is one of the most important tips that I think I can give you, especially if you're early in your career. You see, we used to be in a world where company loyalty was the absolute golden standard, and I really just don't think that's true anymore. And I'm not saying to change jobs every 6 months like you're trying to negotiate a better car insurance price. But every 2 years or so, you really should consider a change. And before the job police come after me, I'm not saying to quit your job every 2 years, but you should at least consider switching roles or changing teams. I really believe that the worst thing that you can do in your career is only understanding the field from a single company, a single perspective, and ultimately believing that your way is the right way. All this is going to give you is tunnel vision, and you won't know what else is out there. So go work for that startup. Get closer to the product. Get closer to the clients. Learn all aspects of the business and how it works, and soak up all of those different perspectives. And learn to appreciate all of the different roles and why each one of them matters. And let's not overlook the truth. Truth of the matter is, you're gonna raise your salary quicker by jumping jobs every couple of years than you will trying to be internal and climb the ladder. So that was all 5 tips that I think you need to absolutely jumpstart your career in 2024. If you got value from this, please consider liking, subscribing, hit that bell, and checking out my Substack linked down below for a weekly article. The first one comes out December 17th. Don't miss it. Thank you so much for watching. See you next week. Peace.